What made you do a story on this, or what inspired you to actually write about this?
I was in Muskegon in Michigan, and there was a solar panel installation on a church, and that happened to be where this interview was based. And I got to talking with the pastor there. It's at First Lutheran in Muskegon. And he started talking about how they had come to install solar panels on the church. And I found it really interesting and a really interesting intersection between religion and renewable energy.
You mentioned that you were at a Lutheran church when you came up with this idea. How mainstream is this?
There is obviously a huge diversity in opinions around climate change and renewable energy in religious communities and, of course, more broadly in the population. There was a Pew Research poll back in 2022 that looked at some of the differences in how religious Americans viewed climate change and the environment and our duty to protect the environment and care for it. It did show that highly religious adults were less likely to be concerned about climate change than their less religious counterparts. But there were still a lot of overlaps and nuances in those views. And so it's difficult to say, how folks view renewable energy on their churches without really doing a whole study just based on that. There are a ton of organizations out there that are kind of working on coordinating these projects that ranges from investors to nonprofits. One Michigan-based nonprofit is called Solar Faithful, and it was founded by a group of other organizations that are working at that intersection of renewable energy, solar panels, and congregations, and trying to coordinate these projects because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a huge amount of work to get to switch your energy system, especially when you're dealing with older buildings, tighter budgets, and just a lack of capacity. You might not have full-time staff to make this happen. And so a lot of organizations are kind of working at that intersection. Another one is Interfaith Power and Light, and that is a national network of organizations that is working to raise awareness about renewable energy among with religious communities across the country.